Okay, so it's 1 minute after 10. Let's start, so I'm not wasting your time. Many thanks for coming in. My name is Miloslav, and I will be conducting the webinar of today. I am sending best, however, very frosty regards from Prague. It's really great to have you. It has been over 1 year since we introduced a new addition to our VOLUTE dewatering press family. And I would like to share with you our experience after the 1 year, from the real life, from the real world, from real applications. Before we will jump into the webinar, I would like to say a couple of words when it comes to organization of this webinar. If you don't mind, I will keep you all muted, so we are not getting any disruption noise at the background. And of course, I would like to keep some interaction, at least at the end of the webinar. So please use the Q&A function of the Zoom application. You can write down your notes, and I will try to reply those at the end of the webinar. But of course, you can always approach us using the email or phone or whatever. And you can find all the contact details at our website, which is AMCON-EU.com. Here we go. So, agenda of today. Let me start with VOLUTE and VOLUTE DUO background. For some of you, it will be really unnecessary repetition. I'm aware of that. But for those who are not so familiar yet with our type of screw press or dewatering press, I think it's going to be useful. I will try to describe the differences between VOLUTE and VOLUTE DUO, and then we will be talking about VOLUTE DUO applications, and I have to admit there will be quite a few, so I won't be able to spend really, the time it would deserve on each and every one. So please use the Q&A function if there will be one you will be particularly interested in, and I will go back then, or of course we can discuss much more into details after the webinars over the phone or over the email conversation. I will be talking about what we are really after today: real life scenarios, applications, so highly inorganic sludges, fibrous sludges, manures, very interesting applications. And what is really hot, at least in our eyes, is a plastic recycling. There I would like to spend more time on some nice cases we experienced. And then I would like to share with you our results from the study, which was conducted by our authorized distributor in UK, Evergreen Water Solution, when we were able to compare directly VOLUTE DUO with existing belt press application. Yeah, good flocculation is a king. I think we are all aware of that when it comes to sludge dewatering. So I would like to share with you our experience with inline mixers, inline mixing, because we started to use it when we launched a VOLUTE DUO 1 year ago, and I think we managed to collect some of the nice data. So I will gladly share it with you. And then, yeah, I will try to answer some questions you might have. So let's go. So something about the background, but don't worry, I don't want to overwhelm you with the history. Nobody really cares, I know. However, the invention of our predecessors who developed and introduced the first type of VOLUTE dewatering press in the 90s is something which is really important and something we are, of course, proud of. Confirmation of the really invented or invention that it was good thing is thousands of installations around the world. And last but not least, the existence of surprisingly similar dewatering presses produced by other manufacturers, and we proudly call them copies, is another sign and confirmation that this was a good invention. So what is the difference between the VOLUTE and VOLUTE DUO? At the first glance, they look quite similar, right? It's really, you cannot distinguish. Yeah, some little tweaks maybe, but they look very similar. But the difference is really under the bonnet, and this is what I would like to explain a bit more into the details. However, both classic volute, as we call it nowadays, and volute duo benefit from the original invention from 90s. The heart of the dewatering press is the cylinder. Sometimes, or somebody calls that drum, dewatering drum, whatever. The filtration element is created by a simple and elegant combination of fixed and moving rings, as you can see on the picture. And as you know, there are different types of screw presses, which are usually using some kind of mesh filter element as a body of the drum with the screw inside. Volute is different. We are using fixed and moving rings. So the big advantage of a volute is the self-cleaning function. As the screw which thrusts the sludge inside the cylinder lifts and drops moving rings, their constant movement self-clean the surface of the cylinder. That's the biggest difference compared to the mesh type of the screw presses. So therefore, by the way, Volute Duo does not need a pressurized water for rinsing, for cleaning the surface. Normal tap pressure water is very much enough. And this function very much helps for dewatering of the sludges which contain some fats and oils, by the way. So this is the principle of the volute dewatering presses. Both classic volute and volute duo benefit from. Now, what is really the difference? Now you can see a bit naked cylinders, so we can somehow see inside how it works. We have some sludge inlets. We have one cylinder. So as I said, we have a couple of rods which holds the cylinder together. We have a combination of fixed and moving rings, and we have a screw inside. In practice, it is one cylinder, but we distinguish into two important zones. One is the thickening zone, when we really don't apply much of the pressure on the sludge. Well-flocculated sludge is pushed by the cylinder, and the water filtrate is escaping the cylinder quite freely. The second zone we call dewatering zone, and this is the zone when really the dewatering is happening. We apply more pressure on the sludge, and at the end you can see the end plate and the sludge cake coming out the cylinder, and still some filtrate escaping the cylinder. So this is the classic volute on the left side, and on the right side there's a cylinder of volute duo, and you can see the difference. At least there is another motor out there, and the cylinder, you cannot really see it from this perspective, but the difference is that we don't have one screw inside the cylinder, but we have two screws inside one cylinder. It is important difference, but there is one even more important, and this is the friction, the difference in existence and non-existence of friction. As I said, for the classic volutes, the screw inside the cylinder is lifting moving rings by its own movement. So yeah, there is a friction between steel and steel. Of course, we are using high-grade steel, hardened surfaces and everything in order to bring sufficient lifetime of the volute dewatering presses. However, there is a friction. The design of the volutes introduces external shaft, which is actually now driving the movement of the moving rings. So there is always going to be a little bit of clearance between the screw and the rings. Let me explain you on this picture. I think I hope you can see the movement. This is kind of cross-cut section of the cylinder, so you can look inside. And on the left side, we have a volute, the classic volute, and you can see that the flight of the screw is turning, and at the top, the red circle actually represents the point of contact with the moving rings, and the gray circle represents the moving ring itself. So the movement of the moving ring is caused by the flight of the screw. On the right side, VOLUTE DUO, you can see that we have this external shaft with some providing some eccentric movement of the moving rings, and this is fully operated by it, and it's designed in a way like there is never ever going to touch, there will never be a friction between the screws and the moving rings. That's the most important part. Why it is like that, and what kind of benefits it can have. Classic volute works fantastically well, but of course there are some sludges which are in particular very complicated for any type of screw press, and for volute is not different in it. And those are the sludges which can block the cylinder or cause extensive wear of those expensive components which are the rings and the screws. And for certain sludges, by addressing the issue, we developed the VOLUTE DUO, which is suitable for dewatering such as sludges. And I will show you on some real cases how it really works and what kind of results we can get and we can expect from VOLUTE DUO. But these are the biggest differences when it comes to design. I hope it's clear. When talking about the frictionless design, of course, it brings significant savings when it comes to maintenance cost and therefore OPEX, obviously. You can see those steps in the cost of the maintenance. We are talking about 20 years cumulative maintenance cost, imagining that the machine is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. And you can see, and those steps are actually caused by the regular maintenance of the screw and the moving rings. And as I said, those components are quite expensive because those are high quality materials used in their production. When it comes to VOLUTE DUO, you can see that the line is more flattish, more stable. And yeah, we can say roughly that we can reduce the maintenance cost over 20 years by 50%, half of it. It's very important, but it's not all of that, of course, but it's worth it to keep this in mind. So finally, now let's go to some real life situations and let's see how Duo was handling sludges we would normally rather stay away from. First, I will be talking about sludges with a high inorganic content. This is the chemical production of cyanide in the Czech Republic, so not really healthy stuff, I have to say. You can see inorganic content, 80–90%, super high. The cake, as you can see on the picture, looks super dry. However, it is decent 16–24%. With the throughput of the machine, I think this figure will not kind of, I would say, give you much of the information. It's mainly for us internally to see the throughput capacity of particular VOLUTE DUO. In this case, we are using smallest VOLUTE DUO RVP241 as a pilot unit. What was important that even with this sludge, no blockage whatsoever, capture rate very solid, very high, and 3 parts per million when it comes to phosphorus. This was the limit presented to us by the client. So of course we were very after to measure it and present it back to the client. So however, you can see again, flocculation is a key, beautiful separation, solids from the water, Very well done pilot test. I think it was actually one of the first pilot tests we ever did with VOLUTE DUO back then. Similar application with a highly inorganic sludge from the pharma industry in Italy. Same size of the pilot unit, however, a different one. Magnesium oxide and snail slime, very commonly seen in the pharmaceutical industry. Very decent dryness of the cake, throughput quite low for this particular model in order to get the results we are after. Capture rates, again, very nice. Filter rates, as you can see, and because the sludge was very thin, we have been using pre-thickening units, so that's why you can see this kind of different filter rate from the dewatering zone, thickening zone, and TFU, which is the pre-thickener, and those filter rates looks very, very nice and clean. So another high inorganic content sludge. Another one, kind of bit special, I have to say, glue, wood glue production. This test was conducted by our colleagues in Japan. Inorganic content, 50%. Unfortunately, we don't have a figure when it comes to fiber content, but I don't expect, honestly speaking, much. But the glue itself was a challenge, and we really wanted to put the VOLUTE DUO under the stress and to see how it's going to perform. You can see that the results are very, very nice. Dryness of the cake, well over 40%. Throughput, very decent for the size of the machine. Capture rate, quite solid as well. So glue, wood glue production. Aluminum recycling. This was one of the cases when, as you can see on this picture, we are not using flocculation tank, where we would flocculate the sludge first and then feed it to the machine, but we are using what we call direct feed into the cylinder. So the flocculation is happening after the mixing, and you can see those dark things in this hose, which is the well flocculated sludge. You can see in this picture my colleague keeping in hand the jar with the flocculated sludge, so the separation looks really good. And what was important the most, we didn't block the cylinder. That was the challenge. Capture rate very solid, and quite low poly usage, which is always good, of course, to see. So this was very interesting pilot test on the sludge we would be normally really afraid of with the standard volute. And I think that any other screw press would have a problem with that. Sweden, paper industry. This is not a primary paper sludge. This is actually waste activated sludge from the paper production. Inorganic content 11%, fiber content 29%, so not so super high. However, quite thin concentration of the sludge. What was really impressive in this case, like we were able to present to the end user that we are able to replace DAF, dissolved air flotation, from their process and make those two steps in one in a VOLUTE dewatering press. So that was really great. Capture rate 99 to 100%. Of course, you know, it sounds maybe bizarre, but as you can see, very strong, like rounded flocks provided really great separation, and it ended up in very clean filter rate as well. You can see the end plates by the end of the machine, watching how the machine is pushing out the sludge cake at the outlets. Inorganic content and fiber, sometimes we are getting mixed sludges. In this case, this was a digestate with the waste activated sludge. Inorganic content and fiber content, kind of decent. Solids concentration 2.11%. Again, quite normal. There's nothing really special. However, you can see in the sludge cake, you can see those little straws and things coming from the digestate. And again, this would be definitely sludge which would cause, which could cause a blockage of the cylinder, and which could be causing extensive wear of the expensive components. It is not the case for VOLUTE DUO. No blockage at all, great results, capture rate, very nice, as I don't want to say as usual, because sometimes, of course, you don't get it, but in this case, it was definitely good. Raw wastewater, very stinky application, meat rendering. As I said, raw wastewater, so you can see, you know, how the filtrate looks like. Inorganic content very varied from 8 to 16%. Fiber content not so high, 4 to 12%. However, the concentration of the inlet sludge 7% is on the higher side. Obviously, dryness of the cake 23-29%. Very happy with that. Decent throughput as we want. No blockage at all. A capture rate very solid as usual. Starch. We are usually afraid when we hear about the application when there is a starch in the sludge, because it can be really tricky to dewater such a sludge. But again, depends very much on the flocculation, and with VOLUTE DUO we are not afraid at all anymore to give it a try. So here we are talking about the food industry, the company which is producing the potato starch as a product. Sludge was coming out from the duff. Inorganic content we measured 33%, fiber content 20%, total solids of the inlet sludge 6%. Beautiful results. However, it sounds a bit strange, because during the test, right at the site, we did the measurement by ourselves and did a client as well in their own lab, and we were reaching like 40-50% of dryness. So it was something to celebrate, right? But when we brought the samples back to the in-house lab we have in our office, we measured 20 to 23%. So some kind of magics and miracles are sometimes happening. However, you can see the sludge cake, and that was important. Capture rate very high, above 96%, and surprisingly very low polymer dosage, only 3.3 active content polymer dosing, 3.3 grams per kilo of dry solids. So this was very nice results. So starch, yeah, something we definitely can go to when it comes to applications like potato starch production, potato chips production, and whatever potato processing plants. We are now really okay with it. Manures. I promised to cover a bit of the manures, because yeah, it is recycling and reusage of the natural resources are very popular nowadays, and we are getting a lot of inquiries and a lot of questions when it comes to how to dewater a manure. In this case, this was one of the first pilot tests conducted by our colleagues in Japan, with one of the first pilot units we built of RVP, VOLUTE DUO. So we are talking about the raw manure together with the bedding, fiber content 60%, total solids 10%. You can see how it looks like. We reached 22.5% dry solid. You can see the filtrate. I don't know if we can really call it filtrate, but the liquid section of the manure coming out of the cylinder. Very high throughput, obviously, for this sludge. Filtrate sludge TS, you can still see 6%, so it's still quite high, obviously. But what was important that we can easily separate the solids from this liquid section, I would say, and with very low maintenance and operating cost. That's what was important. So no polymer was used, which is usually case for the manures, as I will show you on the next slide, because some of the applications or customers don't want to have any chemicals, any polymers in their products, as they want to use it for fertilizers or something like that, and they would like to declare it really green, very bio thing. It's this one. This test, not test. Sorry, this is the installation. This is from Sweden. It is an agri biogas production and fertilizer production. Here we are talking about digested pig manure. Unfortunately, I don't have a fiber content, but it was high. You can see it on the picture. TS inlet at the beginning, not high, 1.6%. Dryness of the cake, over 27%. Very nice throughput. And what was important, and what is important, no polymer used and no clogging, no blockage of the cylinder. Manures, very interesting. And this is kind of side product of our pilot testing. This test was conducted on the DAF sludge in the cheese, so dairy production in the Czech Republic. And my colleague who was conducting this pilot test saw the centrifuge next to our pilot unit. And of course, it was very tempting to make a direct comparison of the energy consumption. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting if you see it side to side. So the test was conducted with the 241, again, the smallest VOLUTE DUO unit we are taking out because it's so convenient to bring to the client, make a presentation, conduct the pilot test. Its own power consumption is less than 1 kilowatt. The existing centrifuge installed, so this guy over here, its power consumption is around 22 kilowatts. And if we would compare like side to side with the centrifuge with other of the VOLUTE DUO unit, which is RVP 501 or classic VOLUTE, which would be FS 302 or 351, you can see the difference of the energy consumption. It is very interesting, honestly speaking, to see that, 1 year ago, nobody really paid so much attention to the power consumption. But now, I don't want to say thanks to the situation because we are not really thankful for that. There is nothing to be happy about. However, the cost of the energy went so high, and the OPEX, therefore, is so influenced by this pricing cost increase that many customers are now really paying attention to the energy consumption, which in general puts all types of screw press into a favor, not only VOLUTE, to be perfectly honest. However, we think that the VOLUTE is the best option when it comes to any type of screw press. VOLUTE DUO in plastic recycling. Here, I would like to spend a little bit of time. It might be interesting for you to see what we find out and why we think that the plastic recycling is really blooming industry. And we see a lot of potential for better economical dewatering of the sludges coming from there. So this is just to give you some of the background. You can see that production of plastic comparison in 1950 to 2018. It's obvious, it's crazy. And you can see what is happening with the plastic waste. Energy recovery, landfill, and only less than 1/3 being recycled. So there is still a lot of potential to recycling industry business in the Europe and elsewhere, obviously, as well. So in plastic recycling, wastewater comes from the washing process of plastic waste, cold and hot wash. It really depends. After filtration, usually there is a DAF, installed. And standard technology for sludge dewatering are centrifuges and chamber filter presses. Usually, the dryness of the cake is expected to be very high, 30 to 70%. And screw presses never really managed to get into the market because the high fiber and inorganic content and abrasives in the sludge. This is what I actually described at the beginning. But the VOLUTE DUO was built to manage such a complicated sludges. So let me share with you a couple of results. This is coming from the Netherlands. On the picture, you can see VOLUTE DUO designation RVP 501. So I would say mid-size machine. You can see the concentration of the sludge quite high. Inorganic content, not super high, but yeah, quite significant. Dryness of the cake, perfect. There is not much to say about throughput. Very good for this particular unit. Advantage of this was that we could take the sludge directly from the dough, and we didn't need to add any extra polymer because we were still getting nice separation. So that's why this was even more convenient for the client, because of course you save a lot of money when it comes to not using polymer for dewatering like that. When it comes to capture rates, I would say very solid. Another one in Netherlands, PET type of plastic, which is probably the most common type of plastic. Again, DAF sludge, fiber content, inorganic content, even higher than in the last case. Again, no storage tank, fed directly from the DAF unit. Dryness of the cake, 50%. Yeah, and let me try to show you a short video from the installation. Is it going to work for us or no? Yeah. Hope you will be able to see it. Grayish sludge, thickening zone, dewatering zone, end plates and sludge cake. And the sludge cake coming out of the unit. So yeah, so I hope you managed to see something. Plastic films, recycling. Those plastic films are used on the agricultural fields for growing the plants or support growing the plants. And there's a lot of that. And of course, obviously, it's a very good idea to recycle that and not to only throw it away. So there are companies who are specializing in recycling of such foils. One of those is in Poland. Super difficult sludge for dewatering. I am not sure if it's really, if you can see it, but in the sludge, you can see really kind of long pieces of the foil residues which remains in the sludge, and this is really tricky to dewater. And I would say it's far not suitable for any type of screw press. Every one of them would get blocked very easily and very fast within a couple of minutes. Yeah, VOLUTE DUO is the way to go for such a sludges, and you can achieve very decent results with very low operational cost. With very solid capture rate in this case as well. Sorry, yeah, this one. This one is a bit of the special site for us because we have an agreement with the client that we can use this site as a reference. So if you would be interested to see it on your own eyes, the site is in Montfort in Netherlands. It is a complex plastic recycling, DAF sludge, again, very typical installation or wastewater treatment plan. In the process of plastic recycling, fiber content, inorganic content, much higher than usually, reached 22% dryness of the cake, which were with very solid throughput of the capacity of the machine. And it's nice to read or to quote our customers' feeling. It's pure delight. I don't need to look after it at all. That's usually comments of the operators when they start to operate VOLUTE dewatering press, because it's really so handy and so easy. So, summary of VOLUTE DUO in plastic recycling, big blooming market with really exponential growth all around Europe, and I wish to say all around the globe. Plastic recycling, wastewater, and therefore sludge comes from material washing before extraction or palletizing. The process of this recycling might vary country by country, installation by installation, but what I describe is the usual situation, having the sludge, dewatering the sludge after the DAF. When it comes to VOLUTE DUO, it is a very reliable new solution for this industry and the only screw press option, we believe, to dewater the highly fibrous and abrasive sludge. It is a great alternative to standard centrifuges and chamber filter presses, and of course they require presence of the operator, extra maintenance, and some assistant on site, which Duo does not require at all. And yeah, it provides comparable dryness of the cake with much less OPEX. And this is not really up-to-date picture of how countries within the EU are recycling their plastic waste. But you can see there are big differences between countries when it comes to what percentage of the plastic waste is burned or stored or recycled. So that's why we really think that and believe that the plastic recycling industry can be a potentially great business for sludge dewatering, and particularly for VOLUTE DUO. To play important part in the game. Now let me share with you again a bit more detailed comparison VOLUTE DUO with the belt press. This one, as I said at the beginning, was conducted with the help of our authorized distributor in UK, Evergreen Water Solution. It was conducted on the sludge, which is the mixed of the VAS-based activated sludge, or in UK they call it SAS, surplus activated sludge, and the primary sludge. And you can see some tank imports, which are usually used in the centralized way of sludge dewatering. And there were some objectives actually for the client to see, because hey, say, yeah, okay, VOLUTE DUO, interesting, but before we put it into test, let's put down some objectives. So we would like to achieve at least 20% dryness of the cake, solid capture rates 95% and more. And we would like to gather all the data, obviously, by ourselves and analyze them ourselves. So all the data I'm sharing, it actually it captures the original report from the client. This is how the installation looks like. This is the pilot unit of VOLUTE DUO. Again, the smallest one, 241. This is the real size current installation of the belt press. Here you can see some samples from the pilot test. Flocculation, very nice. Filtrate quality, end plate at the VOLUTE DUO, and the sample of the cake. Now let's see some of the figures. So when it comes to solids capture rates, many measurements done. In average, the capture rate was above 98%. So ticked, very good results. When it comes to sludge cake dryness, again, many samples collected, average sample over 28%. So ticked, and you can see the comparison with the belt press is actually similar. Even if you see in the graph, when the blue line represents VOLUTE DUO, the orange represents the clamp press or belt press, we can say it's kind of equal. There is not much of the difference when it comes to performing, bringing solid dryness of the cake after dewatering. This is, of course, when things are getting very interesting, because you know that for the filter press / dewatering, you need a lot of water to clean the belt, which is really crazy when it comes to belt press. And you can see that the water reduction, it's like almost 100%. Let's put it this way, because the belt press consumption of the water is really huge, as we all know. Power usage, this is very important, and I was very happy to see that the client really paid attention to calculate all the parts which are related to the belt press and its function in order to capture the overall power consumption by the unit. So again, the comparison is kind of obvious. It's important to say that here we are not comparing the small VOLUTE DUO pilot unit with the big belt press, but we are comparing the real size of VOLUTE DUO, which will be replacing the belt press, which in this case is RVP 801, which is quite a big machine. So 75% reduction on the energy cost, very significant. And at the end, it's worth it to mention some experience or the feedback people from the sites were sharing with us. VOLUTE DUO is very well made and easy to work with. That's important, easy to work with. Stainless steel component deal with lime sludge much better than the current fabric belt. So it's great. The associated energy and wash water savings are highly significant. That's definitely important. Senior operator said I was very impressed with the machine performance and how easy it is to maintain it. Yeah, because believe me, they struggle with the belt press a lot when it comes to unexpected breakdowns, maintenance, and really hustle. Like everybody is so stressed what is going to happen next. So this was it was a great sign for VOLUTE DUO, and it was highly appreciated by them. Team leader, my first impression was really good, as it seems very easy to get started and produce a good quality cake very quickly. Although we only had in short period of time, I was also impressed with the lack of maintenance it was going to need. So this was super successful pilot test. And why I'm mentioning it, you know what? If you are making business within the sludge dewatering, there are two big dewatering technologies: centrifuges and belt presses. And it's so difficult to break through and to say, hey guys, there are screw presses. There is a VOLUTE dewatering press which can do the job, can achieve the same results with the same polymer consumption, but with much less hassle, operating cost, energy consumption, rinsing water consumption, and whatever. It's really not easy to persuade clients. And I believe you are facing the same sometimes. We always had the centrifuge, so we will have another centrifuge. We always had a belt press, let's have a new belt press. So yeah, but we need to be active, and we need to prove that our technology is better choice, and we need to declare it on the real figures coming from the real tests and results. So I think it was worth it to mention. And I'm talking about the VOLUTE DUO, of course, in its superlatives, how good it is, and we believe it's good. But is it really a silver bullet? Is it going to replace the classic VOLUTE? Is it going to make the classic VOLUTE obsolete? So let's find out. We have those two machines again on the screen. So when it comes to VOLUTE DUO, yeah, it's a new, unique product, frictionless design, as we discussed. It opens new markets for the sludge dewatering with the screw press, as we say, high anorganic content, high fiber sludge, manures, all the difficult sludges, lower OPEX, yeah, compared to the belt presses, to the centrifuges, yeah, and the good quality. It's AMCON. We developed the VOLUTE, we invented it, and we are manufacturing it ourselves. Classic VOLUTE, it's been around for more than 30 years. It has very long proven effectiveness, low capex for smaller models when it comes to comparing with VOLUTE DUO. But is the VOLUTE DUO silver bullet? It is not. It is not. And every sludge is different. And therefore, never trust anybody which is going to tell you the results without conducting a test from the table, declaring that it's going to be this and that, because it's not true. It's always different. And it's worth it to see the real life differences. Here, what we did, we compared the classic VOLUTE FS201 with the new VOLUTE DUO 241, and you can see the results. The classic VOLUTE well outperformed VOLUTE DUO. So it does not really seem that the VOLUTE DUO is going to kill his older brother. It's not needed, because for certain sludges, we can perform better with the classic VOLUTE. From the practical and technical point of view, VOLUTE and VOLUTE DUO compare as follows. We can talk about three scenarios. Either they perform equally, and it's really about comparing the OPEX and CAPEX of those two units. You can see scenario number one. We are comparing the throughput of the machine and the dryness of the cake. So the typical, results we all pay attention to. Then we have a situation which one solution is, or one technology is outperforming the other, and either a smaller to a significant margin, it really depends, but it's again all about the capex and the opex, what the client is about. Still, even if the VOLUTE DUO in this case is not performing as well as the classic VOLUTE, it can in the long run save a lot of money for its maintenance and operation. So it depends on the calculation. And then we have a scenario 3. Then it's kind of very obvious that certain sludges cannot be treated with the classic VOLUTE at all, because usually of the blockage. So that's why it's important to be aware of this and to be very open to clients. And by the way, that is why we are taking, as we call, double gun with us to some of the pilot tests. Because for some sludges, we already know that VOLUTE DUO is the only way to go. For some sludges, we already know that classic VOLUTE will do the better job. And if we expect customer to appreciate that, we don't even take the VOLUTE DUO with us. But sometimes we are really not sure, and we are taking both. We are swapping the cylinders. We are making all the measurements, and then we present to the client and let her decide what is most important for them when it comes to sludge dewatering in the long run. So I think it was worthy to mention as well, VOLUTE DUO didn't make classic Volute obsolete, and it still remains part of our portfolio, and we are still counting with this machine. Another topic I would like to mention, which is connected with the VOLUTE DUO, it is inline mixing. So better mixing for better results. It's very obvious. When we introduced the VOLUTE DUO for the first time, we introduced the inline mixers as well. In this case, you can see the drawing of the VOLUTE DUO. You can see a dynamic mixer over here. And you can see in this dotted line how big the, I would say, standard flocculation tank would be big if we would be using the flocculation not supported by dynamic mixer. So for the design of the Volute, we from the beginning calculated with the inline mixing, smaller flocculation tank, because we don't need that big, and of course achieving the same or even better results. We decided to develop a dynamic mixer on our own. We wanted to have it under control and to see and test all the results, and to be sure that what we are supplying to our clients is really what fits Volute the best. So we did it with cooperation with the Technical University here in the Czech Republic in Prague. Some of the mathematical models, which I don't understand much, honestly speaking, were conducted with our colleagues, and some final design was put together. You can see just a little tweak. What we did in this design is to provide kind of preventing clogging in the dynamic mixers, allowing the bigger particles to have a room to escape from the mixing chamber. Therefore, you can see here underneath the little gap, which is actually allowing sludge to go underneath the propeller. At the same time, you can see a little fence over here, which is creating the right turbulations we need to find in the dynamic mixer in order to get the proper mixing. So how it looks like, it's very straightforward. We have some injection point when we can add chemical, what we need, coagulant, flocculant. It depends what the customer is using. Of course, we do have some basic protection stuff like a dry run sensor, which can protect the dynamic mixer if there is no sludge supplied. When it comes to static mixer, it's obviously without the motor, and the fins we designed and again we tested with our machines provide much better mixing capability than if we would not be using any of a static or dynamic mixer. We conducted and we have data from 19 tests, and we are still continuing actually testing inline mixers. In average, I can gladly share these results with you. So polymer consumption, of course, very important stuff when it comes to OPEX and cost for sludge dewatering. However, it is important to say that this is the average figure. Sometimes we can even reduce much higher, but sometimes, surprisingly, the reduction of the polymer is actually almost zero. This can happen. And it's important to be open and transparent when it comes to this. But average result from these 19 tests, we concluded, and we put all of them, successful ones and non-successful ones as well, we are getting 20% reduction, which is great. It has an effect of the dryness of the cake. It's kind of obvious. Better flocculation, better dryness, better throughput, it's the same, and better capture rate. It comes all together. Dilution water amount reduced. This, unfortunately, I don't have a data for that. but this was one of the theses we had at the beginning, that it could result in this. And it is true, we can prove that, but unfortunately, I don't have concrete data about that. On those pictures, you can see sludge from dairy, dove sludge, and you can see the difference between the quality of flocculation quality between using dynamic mixer or not using dynamic mixer. And I think it's obvious from the first sight. You can see very rounded shapes, very strong flocks, very nice separation. That's really beautiful results. This is one of those you can really say, hey, from the first sight, it is a difference. So that's why we introduced dynamic mixer into our range, and we will be launching it as our separate product as well at the beginning of 2023. So what is the time? It's almost 1 hour, so I am happy that we managed, because it was quite comprehensive, 48 slides. And now it's time for your questions. Do we have some questions? No, we don't have any questions. Okay, maybe I was so fast that you didn't have time to actually write something down, because you would miss a lot. I'm not sure. However, if you have any question, please shoot on me. I will try to answer. Let me give you a couple of seconds. I still don't see any questions. I'm just curious if it's really because you don't have any question, or if the Q&A function is not working. Okay, anyway, it can be the thing that actually Q&A function within the Zoom application is not really functioning well. If it's the case, yeah, it is. Yeah, I can see something. Can we use inline mixer and also an inline pipe on an installation, please? Not sure if I understand the question clearly, but but yeah, of course you can do it. For example, as you remember, one of the case I mentioned that we were using the direct feed into the volute cylinder, and there is actually a dynamic mixer and the pipe, and the flocculation is happening in the pipe. So you can use it. If your question was related, if you should be using dynamic mixer and static mixer, it makes no sense. I think it's not really needed. Dynamic mixer will do the job. Yes, best regards from Germany. Thanks a lot. Nice. Inline mixer for sludge and the pipe for dairy sludge? Yes. You know, it's always good to test it. Again, I can tell you, hey guys, offer to your clients a dynamic mixer because it is a silver bullet. You will save 25% of the polymer. I would be lying. It cannot be true. It depends. We are trying to be really honest and data-based supplier, not pretending and not promising kind of, you know, golden eggs. It's always good to test it on the site, and you will get clear data. Then you can brilliantly calculate everything in the long run, and then you will see the figures. You will see the real savings. Yeah, but our experience with dynamic mixers and static as well is great. We are going to continue with that. That's why we introduced our own range of dynamic mixers. So for us, it's kind of no-brainer. We go for that. What about processing of fish farm waste? I can see it will work well. Yes, yeah, absolutely. We have quite a few installations in fish farms. I actually recently went for commissioning with my colleague to the Czech farm, which is a combination, very interesting actually. It's a combination of the fish farm and aquaponia. I'm not sure if I say correctly in English. When you grow the plants and you have a fish farms and you are using the fish residual waste as a fertilizer for the plants, actually, it is a great modern farm. And yeah, obviously, it can work very, very well. Would be great to show the hydraulic input of the Volute machines. Absolutely. Volute catalog, you can find the details on the website, or we can provide you actually, if you give us, for example, concrete application, some input data, we will make the proper machine selection and recommendation based on that, and for you to see, you know, of course, what the capacity we need and what we need to process. Do you have installation in SAS, waste activated sludge from SBR process? SBR is very common, of course. We do have installations. Dry solids about 0.8%. So on the lower side, it is not a problem. Volute can easily dewater thin sludges. Even if we would be below 0.5% of the concentration, we would be able to use one of the Volute models, which is called GS, which is equipped with pre-thickening. So actually, you have 3 steps in one machine. You have pre-thickening, thickening, and dewatering. Yes, SAS SBR is nothing really special. I don't, want to be so, but yes, this is kind of standard sludge, I would say, for the treatment and dewatering. Well, good question. Would the VOLUTE DUO be usable in pharma environment and FDA type approval? We are now, it's kind of coincidence that we are now actually applying for, how it's called, drinking water certification in order to be able to dewater sludges in some kind of food grade industries. So definitely yes, definitely yes. We have a certification for the classic volute, so we don't see any kind of obstacle why not to get this certification for VOLUTE DUO, but we don't have it yet. However, it is going to be, I think it's a matter of couple of next months, and we will go for that. So yes, when there is a FDA proof, food grade specifications needed in the industries, and we are talking, also about the sludge from the drinking water preparation. Yes, food industry. Yes, good point, good question. And yes, we are working on that, as well as for dynamic mixers to have a certifications for the food industry as well. This is what we are working on. Thanks for the questions. I was really so scared that it's not working. It's good to see that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I don't know how many ladies we have with us. I hope we have some. If you don't have any other questions, we spent together more than 1 hour. I think you find that useful. I hope you got some inspiration how far we can go with dewatering sludge with screw presses, in particular with the volute type of the screw press, and particular VOLUTE DUO, which really extends the range heavily. We are at your service. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to write us an email, give us a call. you can find us, you will be able to find us next year in Aquatech, in Polutech in France. Next year, 24 in IFAT, obviously. So even the physical meeting is possible. If you would like to visit Prague, Czech Republic, you're welcome. You can visit our office in Prague. It would be great to meet you here. Okay, so thank you again. Have a great day and keep on dewatering. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.